When her husband was alive, Mrs. Felicia adopted a young child from an orphanage. She couldn't have biological children of her own, so her mother advised her to become a foster mother. Bob agreed, as he himself had longed to become a father. But things took a turn, and 3 years later, Felicia's spouse passed away, leaving her to raise the boy on her own. At first, everything was going well, and she was managing fine. However, as Patrick grew older, his own character started emerging, not the traits they had instilled in him, but rather those inherited from his biological parents. The first problem Felicia had to face was theft from the school locker room. Patrick was caught stealing money from another student's jacket, and the mother was called to the principal's office for a serious conversation. "Mrs. Felicia, you understand that this is a serious matter. I'm not just talking about what his parents will say, but you should focus on raising Patrick and first and foremost instill in him a sense of shame," the principal said. But what could she do when her son was going down the wrong path? Several times, the mother had tried to talk to him, but Patrick always evaded giving an answer. He believed that it was normal because all boys commit misdeeds in childhood. However, there was one thing he couldn't understand. In the past, boys might have pulled a girl's ponytail or written something on the school board, and those were considered bad deeds, but they were corrected through spankings or extra duties. Stealing someone else's money was incomparable. Punishments like cleaning the classroom wouldn't help. If a child tries to take someone else's belongings once, they will do it again. That's how the school psychologist explained it to Felicia. They were aware that the child was taken from an orphanage. Only Patrick himself believed that his birth mother was raising him. He had to face the consequences of the theft, and the woman returned the money. But that same evening, she decided to talk to Patrick. "Why did you rummage through someone else's jacket? Am I not giving you enough money for lunches? So much time has been invested in your upbringing, and it's all been wasted," the mother said, all this out of anger. But she herself thought that she needed to find a different approach to her son. On Saturday, when they had no commitments, she took him to the movies to see an interesting film. It happened to have a storyline about living a righteous life and moral principles. It's unknown whether her son absorbed that lesson, but his misbehavior temporarily ceased. He started behaving diligently and even brought home good grades. Felicia was happy and thought that her efforts in instilling patriotic values had paid off. However, how bitterly she would regret it in the future. When her son finished school and indulged in a life of debauchery, all of that awaited them down the road. But for now, they did homework together, went to the park, or somewhere else. One day when Patrick was not home, Felicia's mother came to visit. "Hello, has your troublemaker not returned from school yet?" Her daughter shook her head. "No, not yet. It's still early." "Why do you call him that?" Mrs. Elsa waved her hand and said, "Remember when he visited me? Well, I asked him to tidy up the pantry, and guess what he did? I was surprised myself when I checked later. He had scattered all the things that needed to be neatly arranged into bags and packets. Well, what can I do? All boys his age try to avoid work," Felicia said, but her mother persisted. "I agreed that we weren't angels in our childhood either, but Patrick, it seems to me, is growing up as a troublemaker. It's been a long time since you should have told him that you adopted him from the orphanage. Let him know that he was shown mercy and given a proper upbringing." Her daughter couldn't bring herself to do that because she knew what the reaction would be, plus it wouldn't be fair to treat a child who had lost their parents in such a way. Understanding that, Felicia's mother added, "All right, I won't persuade you further. Do as you see fit. By the way, I'm short of $10. Can you give me some?" The daughter went to fetch her wallet, and Mrs. Elsa began looking around, convinced that Patrick had set a trap somewhere. But no, everything was calm, and there was no need to worry. When Felicia returned to the living room with her wallet, she had a sad expression. "What happened?" her mother asked. Her daughter replied that there had been $200 in the morning, and now there were only 180. She was missing 20. "This is just the beginning, there's more to come," Mrs. Elsa said. The mother didn't take the money and left, while Felicia remained standing with her wallet open and a bewildered look. Half an hour later, Patrick came home from school and saw his mother counting money. "Are we not going to have enough until you get paid?" "Of course, we won't have enough if you keep taking out $200. That was her last normal interaction with Patrick. After that, her son became silent and did everything secretly. She was no longer summoned to the school by the principal, and she even thought that her son had changed for the better. But he had no intention of doing so and continued with his mischievous acts. The mother had no idea, and it worked in Patrick's favor. He no longer took money from home, but he always had new things. No, not clothes, as Felicia kept an eye on that. There were new keychains, chocolates, and even a phone. What it could mean, the mother could only guess indirectly. She didn't want to think that her son was stealing again. After all, if he got caught and Patrick was already 14, there would be consequences. During the summer, Mrs. Elsa struggled to have her grandson help with household chores, but even there, he found his own entertainment, running after local girls, leading boys into the woods. In short, he did what he liked. Grandmother couldn't influence him, and the garden, as she realized, did not benefit from his presence. She remembered how she spoke with Felicia. "Have you even looked into who his parents were? I don't think they were exactly model citizens, and the child has taken after them," to which her daughter replied, "Mom, please, what kind of questions are those? And who would give me that information? Bob and I were actually happy that we were allowed to adopt a child, and here you are with your questions about his parents and who he takes after." Yes, it's an unfortunate situation when you don't know a child's lineage and don't understand what to expect. Felicia hoped that as her son grew older, he would change, and she wouldn't have to be embarrassed for him anymore, but it only got worse from there. At the age of 15, Patrick was caught stealing a car stereo. He didn't do it alone, with friends, but he took the blame. This time, the authorities were lenient, and it didn't result in harsh consequences. His mother lamented that he needed to wise up. "How many times have I told you not to take other people's things? I understand that some of them appeal to you, but remember the movie we watched together? People work to earn things before they buy them." But the boy seemed as if he hadn't heard a word they said. "Mom, if I want something, I'll get it, and no one will stop me, not even your lectures." It seemed like he feared no one and nothing. He didn't care how his life turned out. It was then that Felicia began to understand who his parents were. If her son was accustomed to stealing, it would be difficult to root those harmful habits out. Over the years, Patrick became bolder, and now openly took money from home. His mother tried to hide it carefully, but he still found a way. After such incidents, Elsa stopped allowing her grandson into her house. Patrick grew further apart from the family and started resembling a street thug. Not only well-behaved boys, but Felicia herself also feared him. Sometimes when he came home from a stroll, which often happened late in the evening, she would lock herself in her room. That's how terrified she was when her son was in the house. Struggling through the 9th grade, he enrolled in a trade school. He was accepted, but he only stayed for a year. After that, he started working as a laborer on construction sites. Finally, Felicia could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that her son wouldn't be taking money from her anymore. However, along with his job, Patrick found himself a girlfriend. If we set aside all moral values, his girlfriend was no different in character. Moreover, her parents were heavy drinkers, and their daughter gradually developed a taste for it. It didn't take long, about 6 months, before the son started coming home in an unstable state. In an attempt to improve the situation, the mother took him to the doctor, but the clinic shrugged their shoulders. "We are powerless against indifference. If a person doesn't want to quit on their own, even an army of doctors won't help them." The mother had already given up hope of changing anything, but one day she managed to talk to Patrick when he was capable of being aware. Her son looked at her with vacant eyes and listened. "You're still young, you have everything ahead of you. Do you really want to spend your best years with a fallen girl? She's not worth it. She leads an immoral lifestyle and drags you down with her." This conversation had no effect on the boy. Although Patrick did manage to quit his harmful habits, he returned to trade school and completed his studies. The mother rejoiced, thinking her son had gotten back on track. But it was all just an illusion. A few years later, when the boy got married, Felicia faced even more challenging trials. She knew she had to accept Patrick's chosen family, no matter who they were. Fortunately, he didn't tie his destiny to that girl and brought a decent woman into their apartment, who gave birth to their child a year later. That's how they lived until one day during lunch, the son mentioned, "Mom, we're planning to take out a mortgage, but we needed a down payment and we're short on money, so we decided to sell your apartment and use the proceeds as a payment." Felicia was taken aback, afraid of ending up on the streets. It had only been 2 years since she retired, and now such events were unfolding. No, she couldn't agree to that. "I'm not ready to sell the apartment yet. Look for other options, maybe an opportunity will come up, and you'll be able to buy another place." Patrick remembered her words, and later, when his mother fell ill and couldn't react adequately, he presented her with documents to sign. She thought she was giving consent for renovations. However, it turned out that she had unwittingly signed permission for him to manage the apartment. Naturally, her son found buyers and started bringing them in for viewings, but to prevent his mother from suspecting anything, he claimed they were renovation specialists. It was a cruel deception, but Patrick deliberately went along with it. He chose a moment when his mother would be in poor health. Even Mrs. Elsa didn't suspect anything, mistakenly praising her grandson. "Well done for changing your ways and deciding to renovate the apartment. I'm happy for you. Just don't abandon your mother, she loves you very much." Those last words stirred something in Patrick's heart, and he didn't rush to sell the apartment. There were things that needed to be resolved with his mother. She would hardly agree to him selling the property. Despite Felicia's pleas, he still went ahead and sold the house, and to keep her from interfering, he decided to send her to a home for the elderly. As they decided, Felicia remained silent. She understood that she had no one to help her now. She could barely walk on her own, and her father had passed away. In the end, the woman decided to resign herself to living among strangers. Patrick felt nothing, no pity, no compassion. He didn't even want to listen to his mother's pleas. In the institution itself, Felicia stopped him. "I'll live out my life, but when you find out that your parents abandoned you, you'll start to think. Maybe over time, you'll realize that we were different in character. It's because I took you from the orphanage and poured my heart and soul into raising you." It's unclear what happened next, but a week later, the son came to fetch her and took her away. He had used the money from selling the apartment for a down payment and bought a big house. They allocated a separate room for his mother, and now all the household members treated her with respect because Patrick just once said, "I owe her for a decent life and upbringing." It may have been late in coming, but the son understood his mistakes. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.